the issues with the current mayoral race.
Interesting you'd ask that, because I'm not truly familiar what's going on in the mayoral race at this point, being that we don't get a lot of coverage on television or any other media outside of Flagler Live, I guess. I'm not sure I understand what's going on. Do you have some background you can help me out with?
Sure. And actually, Flagler Live has done some extensive reporting, or what I'll say is some extensive reporting on some of the issues regarding the mayor's race, and one of them being a investigation that has been conducted as relates to a potential conflict of interest with the mayor, as relates again to her office and versus her in conjunction with her employer. And
who does the investigation?
Well, there was one investigation that was done by a gentleman named J. Maher, Maher, and he is, I can't remember his title. I have to look at that, but he actually is an internal investigator for the city, and his job, essentially, for all intents and purposes, is to investigate the city and essentially make sure that any or sniff out any fraud, waste, abuse, or any other illegalities as it relates to those. And I'm looking it up as I'm speaking. That's one. But Mr. Maher has a background as an investigator, as a police officer. Anyway, his job is to do the internal investigating internally, and he did his job, and he has decided, based on his investigation, that there's some impropriety here, potentially, as it relates to the mayor using her office as mayor to influence business for her employer. That is the charge, and that's what his investigation has determined, is that there's reason for an investigation by the state to be conducted in his mind, and he's, I believe, taken this to the state. So there appears to be, and Flagler Live has much of these reports. I'm looking at one now from dated July 1st. Mentions that it's titled "Palm Coast Investigates Itself. The result is not impressive." That was the headline, and so it talks about some of these issues. And the FBI, according to Michael Shoddy, who's actually who's an ex-employee, who was a communications director for the city, who's now running for mayor. According to him, he had a press conference 3 weeks ago where he states that the mayor's have been investigated, or the mayor's office and the mayor being investigated. He's been interviewed by the FBI. So what it looks like is that there's investigations being done on the mayor relative to this issue. Again, her office as mayor being used to influence business with her personal employer, which is a local employer here, as it relates to the potential conflict. And is it unethical? Is it illegal? Those are the questions that are before us right now as it relates to this particular issue.
Hey, Rob, have you heard anything about this?
No, I haven't heard nothing until I heard him just talking about it. So it's all news to me.
Very interesting. So how I guess my concern is this is one piece of this information is coming from one source. Is there any other sources out there that we can start to look at to find out not only about the mayor, but these other candidates? In fact, who are these other candidates?
Well, for one, I would say the answer to your first question is yes, there are other sources. In fact, the Palm Coast Observer is also a source that I use. I have one of their articles up right now that says that the headline on that one says that Palm Coast hires new investigator who absolves City Hall, though mayor acknowledges an honest, and quote unquote honest mistake. So Palm Coast Observer is another source local news here that covers us. The Daytona News Journal also has a local reporter here that covers Palm Coast and Flagler County, and they're also another resource to use as far as local news is concerned. As relates to candidates, one of the things where I believe people should start is at Flagler County Supervisor Elections, and their website is flaglerelections.com. Again, it's flaglerelections.com. That is a good website to begin your inquiry as it relates to the candidates. It has each candidate that is running for office, that is filed for office and is running, how much money they've raised, some other detailed information on the candidates themselves, as far as who they are and how much money they've raised. The other thing is to take those names that you get, and then my recommendation would be to Google those names and start your search from there.
Good point.
All of these candidates, well, I won't speak for all of them, but in a general sense, candidates have websites that you can access because they want you to know what their platform is. And so if you just Google their name, especially now, they'll likely take you to that website.
Yeah, one of the things I found interesting in moving to Palm Coast is that the mayor's race doesn't have any political party supporting, or supposedly having a political party supporting any of the candidates. I'm wondering, are there ways that parties do support these candidates, or can they ask for support from either party to help them with their campaign?
The mayor's race in particular, and the city council races, as well as the county commission races, are what you call nonpartisan. And I'm not positive about the county commission. I apologize. I believe they are. I know for a fact the city level and the school boards are what you call nonpartisan elections, in which a party cannot be promoted by that candidate, that they're a representative or a member of that particular party as a candidate. That a nonpartisan race does not allow for that to be race to be run that way. However, the candidates do belong to political parties, and whether it's a partisan race or a nonpartisan one. So the party has a way of at least influencing party membership, as a way of influencing the elections, but the candidates have to operate and function in the campaigns in a certain way when it's a nonpartisan versus a partisan election. That said, though, there is an imbalance here in Flagler County. There's some 10,000 vote differential relative to Republicans and Democrats. There's about 38,000 registered Republicans here in Flagler County, about 28,000, about 27.5 thousand Democrats, registered Democrats, and then NPA takes up about 22,000. So there is a voter registration differential here, but what you don't see is more than one party represented on our councils and our boards here and commissions. You see only one party represented, and that has in many of my Republican friends and Democrat friends agree on this, and that is that we need more balance and more parity in a general sense on those commissions and boards and councils. Katie Lenhart is our locally elected Flagler County Supervisor of Elections currently, and she's made it clear that we're prepared for the upcoming elections as it relates to the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic. So you'll have options. So you mail-in votes, of course, that's something that's an option for folks. And you can still vote on election day, or you can do early voting. So there's still those options that have been available that are still available. And no one knows for sure and can predict the future. We're not going to know. But as far as your question as it relates to a plan, yes, one has been put forth in Katie's office, as it is her charge to do, has come up with that plan, and I have confidence that we're going to be fine here locally. So
I'm glad that at least you feel comfortable. I think I'm going to have to do a little research. If I don't do research, I'm going to have to send Roth out there to do it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, that has it for me. I think that I'd like to get back to this maybe next week when we can sit down and work from where we are today with the information you gave me to see if there's anything else I have any questions. And of course, my basic questions now is if we have this concern with our mayor right now, are there any possible replacements out there, and who might those replacements be, and how are their qualifications come up to meeting the situation that we have coming up?
Well, I can tell you, Mel, that as it relates to the mayor's race, you have 4 other registered candidates that are running for that office. And one of them being Michael Shoddy, who again is the former communications director, who who has brought this investigation, for lack of, it is an investigation, has brought this investigation out to the forefront. He's the one that's kind of spearheaded this as it relates to bringing this out and having the press in the form of that press conference that I mentioned earlier. And then since then, he's been available to the press, to the media to give his comments, and he has commented. So his background essentially is that he's a local businessman here, and I won't go over his platform. That's for, we can research that. But Mr. Shoddy is one of the candidates that used to work for the city, and he's also a local businessman here. John Brady's also running. John has run for mayor more than once now. I think it's his second time running for mayor, if I'm not mistaken. And John is essentially running, without going into detail his platform, his biggest thing is he doesn't really want development in Palm Coast, or if it is development, then he's going to lean toward not developing versus developing, for lack of a better way of putting it. So John Brady is another candidate. Donald Allen Green is another candidate. And I've met Mr. Green before. He is a local business owner as well here locally. Has not been in Palm Coast too long, relatively speaking. I believe it's only been a few years. But Donald Green is another one that is being considered or is actually running. And then you have Alan Lowe, who is another local candidate. He is a local businessman, I believe, handyman, for lack of a better way of putting it. I don't know if there's a better title for that, but that's how he's been described to me, as a local handyman entrepreneur. And his campaign, I've looked at his campaign. I encourage other folks to do it as well, to see what Mr. Lowe is about. And then you have the mayor, who is also running, and we've talked about or mentioned her in our previous discussion. So those are the candidates that are running. So I do recommend again that we do what we can as citizens, as responsible citizens and potential voters, to educate and inform ourselves with the information that's available to us.
I hope we can come back to this platform and discuss some more ideas and some more concerns in the community. And I'd like to bring on a couple more people, if you don't mind. I have a couple of people in mind to bring on that we can do a discussion.
I do as well.
How about you, Ralphie? What are you thinking?
Well, I think it's a good idea. I'm constantly learning from all of this. So I'm sure that the more people get to be able to listen in, the more information that gets out.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you, Ralph. It's good to speak to you, gentlemen. And I'll be looking forward to speaking to you again soon.